Hey, I'm Jack, host of the new comedic news and pop culture podcast, The Daily Zeitgeist from How Stuff Works. A little bit about me. I've listened to almost every episode of Stuff You Should Know and Stuff You Missed in History Class. I'm the co-founder and was the editor-in-chief of Cracked for the last 11 years. And our show is basically the day's news and pop culture filtered through a brain that contains all the information that entails.
And I'm Miles Gray, Jack's co-host, a former political operative and pop culture addict, like something I actually take medication for.
He does. And sometimes he's a bunch of different people, like Michael McDonald.
Tell him he's a stranger.
Japanese radio DJ.
皆さんおはようございます。マイルスです。
And Making a Murderer's Brendan Dassey.
Yeah. No.
Just a fair warning, guys, you're going to learn a lot, but some of the content can get a little edgy, so not for young ears, but trust us, it's all in good fun. So go to Apple Podcasts and listen and subscribe to The Daily Zeitgeist. It's really good, is our catchphrase. We're still working on it.
Welcome to The Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. And I guess your man Ben McAdoo knew what was coming after the game on Sunday where the Giants went out there and lost to the Raiders. Here's what McAdoo had to say after the game.
I'm going to coach this team as long as my key card works.
Yeah, I wonder how it went with that key card this morning. Can you imagine all the suspense that was involved with him using his key card when he got to the facility? Like, he's just sitting there, eyes closed, just hoping for that sound. And he go, boop, because the one you don't want is bam. But he go, boop. And he was like, all right, might be able to make this thing happen for a little while longer. He got there, and then Jerry Reese got to work. And then the mayor, John Mara, came to work. And then it was a wrap. That was it. Ben McAdoo, fired. Jerry Reese, fired. Everybody had to go in that situation. Let's see here. We got John Mara talking here. Oh, here's that thing. John Mara doing that thing where he says, yo, man, we just need to change everything.
Where we are as a franchise right now, we're 2-10. We've kind of been spiraling out of control here. I just felt like we needed a complete overhaul. I don't think there was any one event or one final act that precipitated that.
Who you fooling right now, bro? Who you fooling? There wasn't no one final event. There was no precipitating factor. Like, my contention about this is that they either should have fired McAdoo like 3 weeks ago or they should have fired McAdoo at the end of the season. That there are real questions to be asked about the idea that you were going to fire Ben McAdoo right now when it was abundantly clear that he was going to wind up having to be fired. That being said, Jay Glazer at Fox had reported that a bunch of former players had planned to come to their upcoming game this week against the Cowboys on the sideline wearing Eli jerseys. And I feel like it was at that point that the Giants realized, woo, buddy, we got to nip this thing here in the bud. Like, this, no, this has to stop. But over here, we told y'all early that this was going to happen. We did. But we didn't tell y'all that this was going to happen when they named Geno Smith the starter. No, that's not when we told y'all this was going to happen. We didn't tell y'all that this was going to happen when they benched Eli Manning. Nope. We didn't do that. We didn't tell y'all that this is all going to end bad after they had lost all those games in a row. No. That is not when we told you that this was going to wind up being a problem. We didn't even tell you it was going to be a problem when Odell Beckham got hurt, and they were basically out here putting dudes off the street out there wide receiver. Cat said, honestly, if they play a flag football game like somewhere in Miami, I'm not sure these dudes are first-round picks. Nope. That's not when we told y'all this was going to go bad. We told y'all this was going to go bad as soon as we saw that Principal McAdoo had come back for summer vacation, and he was out here looking like Director of Security McAdoo. We knew that it was all going to go downhill when Ben McAdoo started off with that little regular old goofy people hairdo and that mustache and his glasses, and then he came back out here looking like Gordon Gekko and wearing Oakleys all the time. That is when we knew that the Ben McAdoo thing was not going to work out well, because let me tell you what he showed us when he made that decision to do that. Shannon, am I wrong in saying that that was kind of a sign that he was feeling himself a little bit after a playoff appearance that may or may not have had very much to do with him?
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely the first tell. Absolutely.
New sheriff in town. That's what he was. He was new sheriff in town, except it became abundantly clear very quickly that he did not actually know what it is that he's doing. Like, that's the thing for McAdoo that we got to. They hired McAdoo because McAdoo is so, all you got to do is have a halfway decent season as offensive coordinator with one quarterback, and all of a sudden somebody going to give this to you, right? So McAdoo had a decent season with Eli Manning. Shannon, what do you think is the thing that changed in the 2015 season that suddenly made Eli Manning look a whole lot better? Do you think it was Ben McAdoo?
I'm sure it has something to do with the wide receiver.
Yeah, Odell showed up. Odell showed up, and suddenly everything looked a whole lot better. But the thing about McAdoo with Eli that always got me was what McAdoo was able to do with Eli was he made Eli very successful against bad defenses, and then against good defenses, he still looked like the bad side of Eli Manning. Because I think Eli had something like 30 touchdowns that year and only like 13 interceptions, which for Eli is a non-existent number of interceptions. But you could go look at the game logs on that one. Against better teams, Eli looked like the Eli that we had seen for all this time. The mistake that the Giants made in this one was the firing speaks to the bad idea that was the hiring in the first place. Because the owner's saying now that they needed to clean house, they needed to clean house at the end of Coughlin. Coughlin had been there for, 12, 13 years. And when it was time for Coughlin to go, the only person that left was Coughlin. Everybody else stayed. They kept McAdoo. They kept Spagnuolo. The whole coaching staff basically looked the same. They were effectively saying the whole problem was Tom Coughlin. And that Ben McAdoo would be the guy who would right that ship. And it looked okay that first year. The defense looked pretty good. And then this year came around, and McAdoo just looked like he didn't know how to be in charge. And being in charge is more important than having a scheme or working with the quarterback or anything else. Your mans did not know how to be in charge. And that's how he wind up showing up there like, oh, I hope my card works. Oh, okay, I'm in. Yeah, that's cool. Let me ask a question, though. I'm just curious here. Shannon, why did they wait till noon? Couldn't they come and scoop his playbook from him a little earlier? What time do you think McAdoo got there?
I'm sure he got there probably, 9 o'clock, I'd imagine?
I don't know. I feel like there's two options. If you know you coming to work just to get fired, you got two options. You either going to be the first person in the building or you're going to be the last person in the building. Like, you want to be the first person in the building to make sure that you can get into the building and all of that stuff, and you could just be in there acting like nothing's wrong. Or you the last person in the building because why I need to be the first person in the building just to get fired. So I figured McAdoo probably showed up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it is that he normally shows up. Rest of the staff, they sitting around like, y'all think we got to go in early tomorrow? But anyway, rest of the staff comes in. Now, McAdoo been sitting at work for 4 hours waiting to get fired. Maybe him and Jerry Reese just hanging out together being like, anybody call you? No, anybody call you? No, ain't anybody call me. Anybody call you? Or did Jerry Reese get to the office before McAdoo, and Jerry Reese probably had it on his mind? If I can fire this dude before anybody else gets to work, maybe I got a chance to survive. How do you think it went, Shannon? You think Jerry Reese fired him and then they fired Jerry Reese?
I doubt seriously that happened, although it's fun to imagine that's what happened. I'd imagine that they got rid of both guys around the same time.
I would have. Or did they fire them together? Did they sit them in a room and tell everybody they all punishment? Because no, if I'm Jerry Reese, I would have come to the podium after the game yesterday. I just wanted to let you guys know Bob McAdoo is fired. This is what our fans want. I understand I need to step my performance up in this, absolutely. But today is the day that we begin to give the fans back what they want. And in fact, just like I always wanted it to be, Eli Manning will be the starting quarterback next week. Yeah. That's what I want.
And you notice how they slipped that back in there, too, the fact that it was announced that Eli's the starting quarterback again.
Oh, by the way, just slide that in there real slick, real smooth. But that's sitting around there. So, I just can't imagine what it's like for these cats. And it's not like they're sitting around and it's like a whole company thing and everybody's nervous. No, man, they're coming to fire you. This ain't no layoff, buddy. They are coming to fire you. Shannon, 20 million people. Well, maybe like 7, not 20, right? Maybe like 12 or so. Like, that's the proportion of Giants fans and Jets fans in the metro area. We'll call it 12, 13 million people. All they wanted today was for you to get fired. That was it.
And I did find it interesting. We have the audio of Giants President CEO John Mara kind of downplaying the perception and the Giants fans not being happy and that not being the reason why they fired him.
Great point. Can we play that? Because that's crazy.
Really had no effect whatsoever. 2-10 is 2-10, and obviously the public reaction to that was not pleasant, but that really didn't have any effect on our decision.
Hold on, now 2-10 is a disaster, Shannon. What about 1-8 or whatever? What were they like 1-9? 1-9 was not the time for it.
0-5 or whatever it was.
None of these times were the time. They wouldn't try to get all the way to the end of the year. And it was just like, yo, they're going to burn this whole thing down.
Right, and that was a question I was going to have for you, and you mentioned it at the start of the segment. Why now? Like, why not? If you weren't going to fire him when you got off to that bad start, why now? Why not wait to the end of the year? Why do it now?
It had to stop. It had to stop. Like, it was about to get oogly. Like, we were way past ugly. It was about to get oogly. At the home stadium, too. You know, the Giants called themselves all classy and everything else. Nah, bruh. No. They had to end that one. But Eli Manning is going to be the starting quarterback next week. How's that going to go? 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we'll tell you, should they be starting Eli? And if you're Eli, do you even want to start? You listen to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
You guys may have heard the news. Steve Spagnuolo has been named the interim coach, and Eli Manning has been named the interim quarterback. Is that fair? Like, is that appropriate? Or, Shannon, was Geno Smith the interim quarterback, and then Eli just came and got his job back? Like, how are we describing this? Because they made Eli Manning the quarterback again.
Oh, what's the title? Is it Eli Manning once again named starting quarterback? How are we working this? Did Geno lose his job now? How does this work?
This is a great question. And I kind of feel bad for Eli Manning because, look, I think a lot of the stuff about him in that consecutive start streak is overrated. And I only say it's overrated because it's not like he's ever going to break the record. Like, the record is pretty much unbreakable, and he was going to be done there. Like, maybe I don't think – you think Eli was going to pick it up and play like 5 more years somewhere else, how many games behind Brett Favre if he was on that record? But – man, you don't break the man's streak just to run Geno Smith out there and then be like, all right, cool, you got the job again. You know, what? If I'm Eli and I got the clout that Eli has, because Eli has all the juice right now, I got a pretty good idea how I'm going to play it. But anyway, this is what Eli said when he was asked what his future with the Giants was.
Can't control what's going to happen. So, finish out. We got 4 games left, finish out this season in whatever capacity they need me to do, and go from there.
Has this made you reassess at all whether you want to finish your career here?
No, I'm going to finish out this season and see what happens.
Are you positive you're going to play next season, or you think is that something you have to think about?
Yeah, I plan on playing next season.
Hold on. My man said, does this make you reassess whether you want to play here next year as if Eli Manning has any say-so on that decision? What do you think, Eli was going to retire? Although I think it wouldn't be the worst idea necessarily. But you think Eli was going to retire? Like, this doesn't affect your decision. Eli's like, look, man, I just got my job back, man. I need to audition. In fact, that's the thing for Eli. Eli need to be hitting that playbook like he has never hit the playbook before. Speaking of which, Shannon, somebody's thought about, when the coach gets fired, do they make him leave his playbook?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I have to look into that.
Because I kind of feel like, how I'm going to leave my playbook? They my plays. Right? Like, no, you can't have my playbook. Like, I would really be fighting that one on the way out. Oh, so y'all going to fire me? And then you just gonna keep my plays. Although Nuno makes a great point. They hope he take his plays and leave. We don't want your stinking plays. Get out of here. We gonna go on eBay and see if we can find a different playbook. We gonna get a Tecmo Bowl playbook. We just gonna call plays off Madden.
Speaking of the Giants in next year, so is it time for them to blow the entire thing up? Obviously, they're gonna need a new GM, new head coach. Is it time to blow the whole thing up? Rosters, everything.
Well, I mean, so how much up-blowing are we talking about here, right? So they're going to have a new coach, obviously. I imagine the whole staff is going to wind up being different. There's obviously going to be a new general manager. And they are going to, I would assume, draft a quarterback very early. And the Eli time, I don't think there's any going back from what this is, right? The Eli time is probably going to be up. I feel like that whole thing done blown itself up. Like, they have no other option but to blow it up because I don't even know if blow up is the right word. They just need to get better. And I guess blow up is the only way to put it. Now, they spent all that money in free agency on those defensive guys, but, I mean, you're not going to get rid of Olivier Vernon, are you? Are you going to get rid of Janoris Jenkins? I don't think those are the guys that you wind up cutting loose. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, I think he's a little bit grown. Maybe they make a decision on what it is that they're going to do with him. But by and large, looking around at it, there's not that much to blow up here. Most of it is taking care of itself at this moment. And then Eli's going to come out here. If I'm Eli, man, I'm just throwing everything down the field. I ain't running no plays. Everybody go. Actually, no. Max protect. The rest of y'all go. But we're going to need some more max protect.
I thought they were going to go 4 verts. Everybody go.
Maybe like 2 verts, right? We need some of these verts to stay in here and play. As sorry as their wide receivers are, these dudes, they had to get off the street. And why not just bring in 2 big old dudes and be like tackle eligible? We're going to run 4 tight ends. 2 tight ends on either side. Just 1 dude go long. Why not?
Well, if you think about it, Giants' best receiver this year has been a rookie tight end who has
been
led
Evan
the league
Ingram.
in drops. So there you go.
I didn't know he led the league in drops.
He's one of the league leaders in drops. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that bittersweet for you, Shady?
Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, how do you feel? We haven't gotten to the bottom of Giants fan soul.
Right.
I'm not a Giants fan. You are a Giants fan. So for you to watch your team become a league laughing stock, the NFL version of the Tennessee Volunteers, what's that make? How does that make you feel?
I mean, at this point, I think because the Giants have been a laughing stock the entire season, like it's no big shock. And I think getting rid of Reese and McAdoo is just some finality to it, to be honest with you. And it's time to move on.
Yeah, haven't won a playoff game in 6 seasons.
Did that sound good? Did that sound PC enough?
Yeah.
I'm glad.
How you really feel, though?
I'm annoyed. I'm really annoyed. I'm embarrassed and ashamed for the Giants because this is not how the Giants conduct their business. In private, the way they bungled, and I know we used that term a lot last week, but the way they bungled this entire Eli process, this is not the Giants. As one of the headlines stated last week with one of our best of podcasts, overnight the Giants became the Jets. Like, if this whole situation would have happened, it was the Jets, we'd have been fine. But the fact that the Giants have always comported themselves as being one of the better franchises, the way they handled business, them and I would say maybe Pittsburgh Steelers, for this to happen to the Giants now, it's very disappointing, and I'm frustrated.
Hey, speaking of the Jets, things rolling for the Jets. Your homie Manish wrote a column about how Todd Bowles needs to get some credit for how well the Jets have done. The Jets are 5-7. We legitimately thought the Jets might go 0-16 this year. Like, it was not a crazy thought to think that the way that the Browns look this year, that the Jets might wind up being the team that looks that way. The Jets are 5-7 this year. 5-7. And a couple breaks away from being like 7-5.
And that's one of the things that we were looking forward to this season, whether or not Todd Bowles will stay at head coach. So what do you think? Has Bowles done enough?
They can't fire him. They can't fire. The audacity that will be required to look at that roster and be mad at 5 wins. They can't do that. But Giants and Jets have something in common. They beat the Chiefs. They both beat the Chiefs. And what's that getting the Chiefs? It's got people trying to run Alex Smith off his job after a game in which Alex Smith had 366 yards and 4 touchdowns. They are ready to run Alex Smith off his job. It is full-on NFL chaos right now. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Let's hit the phone. Talk to Steve from Tennessee. Steve, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man.
All right. So my biggest issue with this Giants situation right now is that last week no single person wanted to take ownership for the decision to bench Eli Manning. They said that as an organization that they were all in on this together. So 1 week later, we've got 2 people that are ran out of there, and they're going back on the decision and making Eli the starter again. How can you really say that your organization as a whole came to the decision to bench Eli and find their quarterback of the future if you're going back to him a week later?
Oh, they can't. That's the thing. Stephen, I appreciate the call. They can't. They're just like, look, we cannot have a revolt at the stadium this weekend. That we just cannot have. So I do wonder if they're going to make Eli the starter. Oh, they might do Eli dirty, bro. They might make Eli the starter so he can get his standing ovation, basically get his senior night, and then Geno will get to be the starter the following. Because at some point they're going to roll Davis Webb out there, and when they roll Davis Webb out there, so the same dude who came out the same offense, but isn't as good, is the dude they go, oh, no. At least Geno was used to getting booed and having stuff thrown at him. I don't know what this other cat going to do. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we got the college football playoff set. The committee get it right. We'll talk to Desmond Howard on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Book your next business trip at Upside.com, and you'll get 2 of the best gifts anyone will give you this holiday season. A free pair of Bose-sounding wireless headphones so you can get some peace and quiet on your business trip, and the gift of a better business travel experience. All that plus Upside is great prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. Now, to get your free pair of Bose-sounding wireless headphones, use my code BOMANI when you book your first business trip at Upside.com. That's code BOMANI at Upside.com to claim my free gift to you, Bose-sounding wireless headphones. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Headphones available while supplies last. Must be a first Upside purchase. $600 minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out on College Game Day, covering college football for us here at ESPN. His name is Desmond Howard. Now, Desmond, I am here to ask you in your totally unbiased take, do you think Ohio State should have made it in the playoff?
I mean, look, when you look at it on the surface, just on the surface, wins and losses, they had 2 L's. Obviously, they took a bad L at home, so in their own backyard they got beat decisively by Oklahoma. And then they went on the road and lost by 31 points to a team that never beats anybody by 31 points. So you got those 2 L's, and then when you compare that to Alabama, they only had the 1 loss, very competitive game on the road, the Iron Bowl, their in-state rival. I don't really think that there's a compelling argument when you look at it, from the surface. Now, you get these shows, they last 3 or 4 hours, and you get Reese and Booger and David and Kurt and a couple other guys, and they start going back and forth, and they start splitting the hairs. Then it becomes confusing to the audience. You know what I mean? I think that they all present compelling arguments. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, you look on the surface. Alabama only had 1 loss. Ohio State 2 losses, 2 bad losses, not even competitive losses. And so I think it makes sense from that vantage point. Now, if your argument is, they were a conference champ, well, we saw that the committee didn't give a damn about conference championships last year when they didn't let Penn State in, and Penn State had won the Big Ten. So, like I said, just on the surface, it made sense to me. I didn't think that they would let Ohio State in. I kind of figured it would go Alabama's way, and I think a lot of other people did too. I think when they took a poll before the top 4 came out, most people who do what we do, they had Alabama in that 4th spot.
Now, do you think it should matter that Alabama didn't beat anybody better than Mississippi State?
Well, see, that's when you get into splitting hairs because, okay, let's look at the Florida State game. Okay, Florida State at the beginning of the season was a team that people penciled in to be in a national championship game. So when Alabama played Florida State, this isn't the same Florida State team that Florida played or, anybody else in that conference. They were at full strength. This is when DeAndre Francois was playing. He was 100%. This was the first game. He was fresh as a daisy, no injuries, and Alabama pretty much dismantled them. They handled Florida State in that game. So when you look at it and you say, oh, well, Florida State's terrible this year, yeah, they're terrible they became terrible after DeAndre Francois got hurt in the Alabama game, which was in the second half. But when Alabama played them, they were the Florida State team that people anticipated being at least in the college football playoff. So when you talk about that was their best win was Mississippi State or something like that, to me that was a high quality win to start the season. And another thing that all of these analysts like to go back to, they love to go back to your non-conference schedule. Did you take a risk? Like last year when Washington got in, people were saying, well, how are you going to let Washington in? They don't play anybody in the non-conference. They have an awful non-conference schedule. So you have to give credit for Nick Saban and Alabama for taking the risk, taking the chance, playing the highly ranked Florida State team right out the gate in their non-conference schedule. Now they can't control what happens to Florida State after they play them, that they spiral downward out of control. They ain't got nothing to do with that. But you have to give them credit for taking that chance, early in the season in their non-conference, as part of their non-conference schedule.
All right, we're talking to Desmond Howard of ESPN here on The Right Time. So we've got Clemson, we've got Oklahoma, we got Georgia, we got Alabama. Who's your pick to come out of this?
Whew, man, I tell you what, that's tough. I ain't gonna lie, Bo. I think that's tough because you're looking at Georgia, and I'm thinking that this team, they're peaking at a good time, but I'm still concerned with the freshman quarterback, Jake Fromm. I don't know if he's going to be able to weather the storm in the postseason where things are going to get real. But that's an interesting team right there. Oklahoma, I still don't know if they play defense well enough to win a championship. I think that people just assume they're going to outscore everyone, but it doesn't happen that way in the postseason. Clemson, Alabama might be for the national championship. that game just might be for the national championship, especially because Alabama's getting healthier right now, and Clemson, they're just a team that they're playing with a lot of confidence. Kelly Bryant, he went through his injury. He got hurt before the Syracuse game, and then ended up getting concussed in the Syracuse game. But now he's healthy. I think they're a team that's hitting on all cylinders right now. So that one might just be for the national championship. So I think whoever comes out of that game will win the national championship, as either Clemson or Alabama.
Now, does Jalen Hurts concern you for Alabama?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, anytime you get these little quarterbacks and, what they do the best is run the ball, and then, the passing secondary. Not that they can't, but that's not their strength. The strength is their ability to run. That always concerns me, because once you get in this postseason, now these defensive coordinators, they got a lot of tape. They got a lot of time to prepare for you. And then they like to take away, what you do the best, and then try to make you, beat them with your arm. And, that's like Alabama, I think, ran to that problem a year ago when they played Clemson. They had a lot of time to scheme Alabama's offense and make sure that, okay, listen, we're going to try to put Jalen Hurts in a position where he needs to beat us with his arm. See, Alabama couldn't do that to Clemson because Deshaun Watson was, he was a passing quarterback first. He just had the ability to run, but he was a guy who can sit in the pocket and pick you apart with his arm. So, Jalen Hurts definitely concerns me.
All right, we're talking to Desmond Howard of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, were you surprised that Clemson was able to boat race Miami the way they did?
Yeah, man, because Miami came in that game, to me, limping offensively. I think the Pitt game just exposed a lot of their weaknesses on offense, and then they came into that game without their fastest receiver, Amon Richards. This guy can blow a lid off of a defense, and so there goes their vertical threats. They didn't have him, so you're looking at the way that Clemson could just play, come after the quarterback. Play a coverage where they can man up everybody else, because they didn't have that vertical threat that they really would fear. And, they looked at what Narduzzi, Pitt's head coach, did the week before to Miami to affect Malik Rozier and just really corral that running game, and then, put the guys out there on the island, the DBs out there on the island, and then mix it up with the front seven. So I thought that Clemson would win that game just because Miami came in that game so beat up and losing without a couple of their weapons on offense.
All right, that is Desmond Howard. Check him out covering college football for us here at ESPN. Good to have you, my man, and talk soon.
Thanks, Bo. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, man, no problem. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today and find out if you can save.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the show, Penzo Performance Line. Thanks to Desmond Howard of ESPN for joining us last segment. Ryan Clark will join us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Remember, if you missed anything live, check out the Right Time podcast, available on the ESPN app. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phone, talk to DJ Mike Hitman. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, Bo, I love the interview with you and Desmond Howard. Bo, you know a Michigan guy was rooting for Ohio State to lose. He couldn't stand. He was crossing all his fingers and hoping that Ohio State lose that game. Woo! No. Come on, Bo. I ain't stupid. Hey, Bo, congratulations to Shannon. They got a coach and an owner. An owner that's 5-day coach. Why the Cowboys can't do that? Come on. I give all praise to that coach. I want Gingerhead man out of Dallas. And one more thing,
hold on, you done with Jason Garrett, Mike?
I'm done with gingerbread head man. Only time he's good with Thanksgiving when you put that gingerbread stuff on a little bit pumpkin pie. We don't need that crap, man. I just saw Happy Days. I know how Richard Cunningham look. But folks, how about Alabama? How about them? Oh, tie. Did I tell you, folks? They play in the Mercedes-Benz, man. You need money over in that stadium. We got to get it cracking now, Bo. We about to put it on them. bring that rock, LSU, Orange Crush, whatever you call them. We about to bust them down, Bo. And, Bo, how about this? Nick Saban is got a nickname. What they call it, Nick Saban? I'm telling you twice. I'm telling you, Santa Claus is coming to town. That's Nick Saban, Bo. We coming. Woo! Pie. Congratulations, Shannon. I'm glad your owner fired the coach. That's what the Cowboys should do. Have a good one, Bo.
All right, Mike. Shannon, I guess he's going with the St. Nick theme, but I've never thought of Nick Saban as Santa Claus in the same sentence before.
No, but imagine if Nick Saban did dress up as Santa Claus, though.
That would be the grumpiest Santa Claus of all time. In fact, I feel like they already made a movie about it. I loved a woman who wasn't clean. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. We've been talking about what's been going on with the Giants. Man, poor Geno Smith, man. I feel like Geno Smith is totally caught in the middle of this. That part of the reason why everybody got so mad at Eli Manning getting benched is because Geno Smith was the guy. Geno Smith is like, look, I had a chance to redeem my career, and then one dude on my team broke my face, and then I haven't really been able to get it cracking ever since then, right? So Geno goes out there. And, Shannon, did you watch your team play?
In some parts, yeah, I wanted to see how they would get up, what kind of start they would have. With
How'd Geno look?
He didn't look awful early on.
Well, did he look any worse than Eli Manning has this year?
No, but Geno did have some of the characteristics that he did it with the Jets, having some of the fumble problems.
Yeah.
Which have plagued him throughout his career so far. So
now, serious question, though. How much of that fumbling was on him, and how much of that was on Khalil Mack dominating them boys?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was, he did not appear to be awful. I looked at the box score. I tried to check a little bit. He did not appear to be awful. But the man just out here trying to work hard, trying to make a living. And, well, Rex Ryan coached Geno Smith. He was the coach of the Jets when they drafted Geno Smith. And this is what Rex Ryan had to say about Geno.
Geno Smith, I love Geno Smith. Great guy. I just don't want him playing quarterback for me.
Damn. Like, normally former coaches kind of ride for their guys a little bit more than that. And don't think that Geno Smith didn't notice.
I did see one of my ex-coaches say he didn't want me to be his quarterback, and that really upset me. The guy that we saved his job, 2013, we fought our ass off for him both years, and for him to come out and say that just shows you how much of a coward he is.
What coach are you talking about?
Rex Ryan.
Yo, who was that messy reporter? Geno was trying to keep it vague or whatever it was. Then the dude was like, who you talking about? You know damn well who it was that he was talking about. Geno's like, okay, play that one more time.
I did see one of my ex-coaches say he didn't want me to be his quarterback, and that really upset me. The guy that we saved his job, 2013, we fought our ass off for him both years, and for him to come out and say that just shows you how much of a coward he is.
What coach are you talking about?
Rex Ryan.
Yeah, he could wait. He was just like, yep, Rex. That's exactly who. Yeah. That is who it is that I am talking about. What can Geno do? Like, I have no idea what it is that Geno can actually do at this point in his career.
All right, so the whole basis of the Giants last week in selling Geno, getting the playing time, was to evaluate the quarterback position, and maybe he could be a possible starter next year or maybe even a solid backup. So now they're only going with Geno for the one game. Was that accomplished?
Geno's got to be like, what was I supposed to do? Right? Like what else was it that you could possibly ask me to do under these circumstances? I have no idea. And what can you say at this point? Like, if you are him, what can you do? Because all you really want is a chance to prove that you can do a little more than you did when you were a second-year quarterback. And no one even thinks that you deserve to have that little bit of opportunity. Right? Like, nobody even believes that you're supposed to have that little bit of chance. That's where he is on the entirety of his career. And I was like, damn, Geno. Apparently, though, Geno was sitting around watching the Sunday morning shows, and I would have to say, I would not recommend you do that before the NFL game. Not when you play for the sorry Giants. Like, there wasn't going to be no level of positive affirmation heading in your direction sitting around watching those games. No. For who? For what? He's right, though. They did save Rex's job that year. I do think that gets lost. They were 8-8 that year with Geno as quarterback. Geno did not save his job. Also, shout out to all the reporters who put it out there that Geno said, I saved Rex's job, when he clearly said that we saved Rex's job. And that's got to be the most frustrating part of all for Geno. People go out of their way to try to bury this cat when he hasn't really done anything to anybody. Anyway, coming up next, college football playoff. Did Ohio State get hosed? The answer is the guys who get hosed every time. Tell you who it is on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hey, I'm Jack, host of the new comedic news and pop culture podcast, The Daily Zeitgeist from How Stuff Works. A little bit about me. I've listened to almost every episode of Stuff You Should Know and Stuff You Missed in History Class. I'm the co-founder and was the editor-in-chief of Cracked for the last 11 years. And our show is basically the day's news and pop culture filtered through a brain that contains all the information that entails.
And I'm Miles Gray, Jack's co-host, a former political operative and pop culture addict, like something I actually take medication for.
He does. And sometimes he's a bunch of different people, like Michael McDonald.
Tell him he's a stranger.
Japanese radio DJ.
皆さんおはようございます。マイルスです。
And Making a Murderer's Brendan Dassey.
Yeah. No.
Just a fair warning, guys, you're going to learn a lot, but some of the content can get a little edgy, so not for young ears, but trust us, it's all in good fun. So go to Apple Podcasts and listen and subscribe to The Daily Zeitgeist. It's really good, is our catchphrase. We're still working on it.
Welcome to The Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. We'll take a break for Shannon's celebration of the Giants firing their head coach to talk about this here college football playoff. You have to understand the company I work for is heavily invested in the notion of the college football playoff, so that leaves me with a dilemma, which is that I kind of need to play in to all the excitement and everything around the college football playoff, even though I believe this whole thing is powered by stupidity. Now, when I say that this whole thing is powered by stupidity, this is what I mean. The question of today is, should Ohio State have gotten in to the college football playoff? There are 4 spots in the college football playoff. Ohio State won the Big Ten. They did not wind up getting that spot. There are lots of explanations that people could throw out there about why it is that Ohio State did not make it in, but we're going to start here with Kirby Hocutt of the playoff committee. He is the chairman, and this is what he has to say, that Alabama was always above them.
The selection committee looked at a one-loss Alabama team, that one loss coming against the final ranking number 7 team, Auburn, in a very competitive game. We compared that to a 2-loss Ohio State team, obviously the one loss at home to number 2 ranked Oklahoma, but more damaging was the 31-point loss to unranked Iowa. We spent a great amount of time last night into the morning, again, beginning at 7:30 this morning, talking about the full body of work. Now that the complete season is in front of us, we have the full body of work. The selection committee just favored Alabama's full body of work over that of Ohio State. And it was consistent over the course of the year as we saw Alabama play week in and week out.
Now, the only place where I disagree with him really on what he had to say, the thing that jumped out was he thought that Auburn game was a very competitive loss for Alabama, because I thought that Alabama was thoroughly outclassed in that game. I did not think that that was a competitive game at all. Like, when was the last point that you watched in that game that you thought Alabama had a chance to win? Like, he talked about that like that came down to the last drive or something like that. That was not the game that I myself saw. Now, I know a lot of people jumping up talking about conference championships because Ohio State won one, Alabama did not even play for theirs. Here's Hocutt again talking about conference championships.
We don't look at conference affiliation. Again, we look at the 4 very best teams. Conference championships are important. If you look at the history of the CFP playoffs, 14 of the 16 teams have been conference champions. But, however, we have the flexibility and the discretion to put non-champions in the top 4 if they are one of the 4 very best. And that's what took place last night, was confirmed this morning, and speaks to the top 4 teams this year.
I wonder how the Big 12 feels hearing them talk about this conference championship thing, or in that way doesn't matter, after they may have cost TCU a spot in this playoff by having their supremely contrived conference championship game that they thought would improve their chances of making the college football playoff. Stupid Big 12. Anyway, yes, I say this whole thing is powered by stupidity. And the reason I say this whole thing is powered by stupidity is as follows. This whole system is powered by the fact that y'all get up and y'all argue about this. That's all it takes. It doesn't matter who the 4 teams are that are ultimately in this bad boy. We're going to give you a semifinal. We're going to give you a final. We're going to give you a champion. And you're going to watch all of those things because whoever the governing body is has decided that those are the things that you are going to receive. Should Alabama have made it or Ohio State? I don't care. I didn't go to neither one of those schools, and I'm going to probably watch whatever games it is that they wind up playing. That's where I am on this. The part that I need y'all to fall back off of, though, is this idea that you have a problem with them choosing between 4 and 5, and your then impulse is to say, well, let's move this to an 8-team playoff, like y'all are not going to argue about who the 8th team is in and how you're not going to scream at the top of your lungs about whoever that 8th team is going to be. You know how I know you're going to wind up screaming at the top of your lungs about whoever that 8th team is going to be? Because they have a basketball tournament with 68 teams in it, and y'all complain about the back end of that. And the back end of that will be stuff like VCU. Like, y'all will complain about whoever it is that winds up getting in, and you won't realize that what will happen to the college football championship if you push this out in that way is it will, in effect, become what the baseball playoffs have become. Not so much a true distinction of who the best team is, but just basically who can survive all these rounds of your random championship generator. Here's the other thing that I always feel like you guys have a tendency to forget about this. The players don't get paid any extra for playing more of these games. They don't. Now, the coaches tend to, because they got these contracts with these incentives where they'll get a little $100,000 here and there to get into the playoff, and they'll get a few more $100,000 for getting to the championship game or however it goes. The players don't get anything else for this. What you're going to wind up with in that circumstance, if you start stretching this thing out to 8 teams, is I bet you're going to start seeing more kids whose teams actually make it to the playoffs being like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to take it to the crib, and I'm going to go get ready for this draft because I'm not about to roll the dice 3 more times on my health, especially considering what tatters their bodies would be by the time you got to a 3rd round of a playoff. It'd be ridiculous. It would be silly. But this is what we do, right? This is what we've got. There is no system that is going to stop the arguments. So we can have the television show, and we'll get on there and start arguing about it, and then y'all going to get up here, and y'all are going to wind up arguing about it, and this whole thing drives itself, and you go for it every single year. Let me bottom line this for you. There's no way around it. There are 130 schools, I believe, in the football bowl subdivision. 130 schools. They play between 12 and 13 games before the selection comes around. They do not all play each other. There is a wild level of variance between teams in college football. You want to know the good way to determine a college football champion? It doesn't exist. There isn't one. There's never been one. There's never going to be one. What we have done with college football, though, is we have tried to make college football into a national sport as opposed to what it is at its core, which is a regional sport. It is probably more enjoyable as a regional sport and at the regional level, but we want to make this into a big old national thing. As we do this, as we make this into a big old national thing, all you do is set yourself up for things that are truly impossible to achieve. And one of them is this idea of a quote-unquote true champion. A tournament does not make you a champion any truer than a poll system, than the computers, or anything else. There's no good way to do this. And so what everybody thinks is, because all y'all know how to think about it in terms of a champion is some kind of damn tournament. So what you think is, what we'll do is we'll just expand the tournament, and that'll make the champion truer. Oh, yes, let's open the opportunity for lesser teams to get involved, and that will make your championship truer. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You're never going to be happy with what they come up with. There's just no good way to do this. It's not your fault that there's no good way to do this, but you need to come to terms with the fact that there is no good way to do this. I don't feel like my enjoyment has been really that drastically improved by going away from what the old bowl system was. Although I did enjoy those 2 trips Texas made to the Rose Bowl where Vince Young put his name on the sign and said, this ain't the Rose Bowl no more. This is the Vince Bowl. This the H-Town Bowl. It's a bowl, big old bowl of lean. This is ours. It belongs to us. I did enjoy that.
Speaking of champions, now that Alabama made it in without playing in their conference championship game, are we starting to devalue the conference champions when it comes to this playoff?
But here's the thing. Once you make this into a national sport, you will devalue the conference championships. Conference championships are like, they matter to the conference. Like, this idea that a conference championship has to matter to the rest of the world is insane to me. Right? The conference championship should matter for the people within the world of that championship. Like, this is a game that's built on local rivalries and history and all of this stuff. You dilute all of this out every time you add an additional level to this stuff. So the idea that we're like devaluing conference champions now, I thought y'all wanted the best teams. If y'all wanted the best teams, why do you care about whether or not somebody's a conference champion? Well, the idea that just because you win a conference means that you're better than somebody else? Come on, man. Y'all got to make a decision about what you wanted. Because if you wanted a system that hinged on winning a conference championship, you could have stuck with the old bowl system, which gave you the priority on conference championships that does not really exist in this current one. You just got to make up your minds, man. You're not going to get the perfect system that you want. You're not going to get a playoff that is ever truly going to satisfy you. But no matter what the end result turns out to be, you're going to be sitting in front of your TV watching the last game, because whoever they tell you is the champion is going to wind up being the champion, and that's going to be the part that you ultimately care about. But no, who wins the Big 12 should matter to the people within the Big 12. Who wins the ACC should matter to the people within the ACC. Trying to take that and put it on to something else, to this larger thing for this national stuff. Come on, man. You just add narratives onto this stuff. And everybody says they get tired of narratives. No sport is powered by narratives in the way that college football is. And you ask somebody, so Alabama wasn't a conference champion, they shouldn't get in. The same people, by the way, who dog the Big 12 and talk about how they don't play any defense in the Big 12, except it's a conference. So then Oklahoma goes ahead and wins it, and now you feel like they're special? Make up your mind, people. Make up your minds. Hey, what's it like to win the Heisman Trophy? Check out Charles Woodson reflecting on his Heisman 20 years later on the Campus Conversation podcast. Podcast is available on the ESPN app. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we are going to take your phone calls and also find out about Gronk and that suspension. You listen to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Ryan Clark of ESPN will join us next segment. Ryan Clark will join us at 5:30 Eastern. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. The Right Time is brought to you by Upside.com, giving all business travelers the gift of a better travel experience this holiday season. Upside.com. All right, we just talked about the college football playoff. 888-729-3776. Let's hit the phones and talk to Jeff in Alaska. Jeff, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bo, I'm with you. It doesn't matter to me, but it just seems like Alabama got to sit at home while everybody else is playing, getting busted up, or the possibility of getting busted up. They're out relaxing, getting rehab. I mean, the same thing happened last year with Ohio State. Yeah, they got smoked when they played the next game, but still, it's not. That seems a little bit inequitable to me, that you get to sit at home while everybody else is having a chance of getting hurt or whatever, or a chance to lose the game.
No, let me tell you, I think that is a great point, Jeff, and I appreciate the call, because you're right. Alabama wound up, they had to cross their fingers, roll the dice to hope it worked out, but they did get an extra week to rest up. But look, don't get it twisted, man. These boys, they are beat, man. Like, after all this, I was talking it was Michael Wright many years ago. Michael Wright, who covers the Spurs now, he played college football. He's a really good high school football player. He told me, he was like, look, man, in the high school playoffs, I was kind of hoping we would lose because it hurt. Like, these football games, man, they ain't no joke. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone. No, speaking of no joke, Rob Gronkowski has been suspended for a game by the NFL. He is going to appeal. He took a cheap shot at Tre'Davious White, where Tre'Davious White was laying down on the ground. Gronk apparently had gotten tired of all the pass interference, and he decided that he would exact his revenge on White by throwing a shot at him while he was on the ground. White wound up being concussed, or at the very least, he is in the concussion protocol. Now, here is Rob Gronkowski apologizing.
I was just really frustrated at that moment. It just happened naturally through emotions and frustration, and just want to apologize to Tre'Davious White. I don't really believe in the type of shots like that, but just due to the frustration process, game of football emotions, that's what happened.
And then after that, they asked him what he was frustrated about, and it wound up being this soliloquy on pass interference and how tired he is with being interfered with on passes. And I'm like, why don't you go holler at the ref? Like if that's what your beef was, why not go holler at the ref? And so Gronk has now been suspended a game. Like I said, he's going to appeal. I don't think that appeal is going to go through. Like if Mike Evans got the 1-game suspension for what he did involving Jameis Winston, I think that this is far worse, and Gronk is probably lucky that he only wound up getting 1 game in that situation. But, hey, man, this NFL, you can't do stuff like that. There's really no way around it. And he had to do it in as vulnerable position as anybody could think of. The one thing I'm not so keen on with this is I do think there's some people who allow on some Gronk be Gronk sort of thing about this. But I found that by and large, everybody, at least who works in my business, saw that play. And they responded the same way, that was a cheap shot and that he would ultimately wind up being suspended. Like there's a whole bunch of comparative cases that you could bring up. I guess Burfict winds up being the first one that you could bring up. But Burfict got a longer resume on these sorts of things than Gronk does. But he absolutely 100% earned his suspension. It seems like his coach who told Belichick told Sean McDermott after the game that it was BS. He ain't say BS, but that's what he called it in effect. Everybody agrees with that. No, that suspension is what the suspension should have been in all likelihood. If they had gone 2, I would have understood it, but I also know the NFL. If they suspended him from 2, they would have knocked that bad boy down to 1. That's just how that worked. This one, though, I don't think it's going to wind up being knocked down. Like, you can't hit somebody after a play and give them a concussion. Like, if the dude hadn't gotten a concussion, there's a possibility that Gronk would have just gotten a significant fine. Man, you're not about to hit somebody laying on the ground and concuss them and get away with it in any sort of way. Though I did feel, after seeing the interview with Gronk, he said it was a cheap shot and he shouldn't have done that, but then they got to asking him about dudes, like, grabbing him at the top of the route. I mean, he knows what he did was wrong. But he does seem to kind of think that it's understandable that he would do such a thing. And I guess that is where he and I would disagree on this matter. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. It's on to Ray from Georgia. Ray, thanks for calling the right time.
What's up, Bo?
Doing all right, man?
Hey, man. I was thinking in that particular case, Rob Gronkowski, man, it was asinine. It was childish what he did. And I thought the 1 game was kind of a little egregious as well, as you see I'm on my Stephen A. vocabulary. And the optics looked really bad because the guy was bleeding from the mouth and everything. But I had another question. What responsibility does the play-by-play guy have in that? Because I'm guessing it might have been a Bills announcer, and they was like, well, good for him. You know, they was like trying to get the point across like, well, he was justified in the incident. You know, cue the white guy's music from the Dan Le Batard show. And then the second question was, does Tre'Davious White's teammates hate him? It was like one guy that came and pushed Gronk, and then nobody else did anything. I was like, I was expecting it to be a brouhaha. So let me know what you think about that.
Ray, I appreciate the question. I didn't hear the thing that you were talking about, so I can't really speak to what the radio broadcast said or anything else. Now, the question about whether Tre'Davious White has any friends is a fair one, or is it simply a matter that nobody want no problems with Gronk? Is that what it is? Because I do feel like any player who's that far down the field on the pass play is in a different weight class than Gronk.
And I don't want it with Gronk, because you know what Gronk probably doesn't have? An off button.
No.
Like, think about it. You get Gronk that worked up, and at that point that he was so frustrated at that moment to do that in the first place, then you want to fight a dude as big as Gronk who doesn't have an off button? No, I'm good.
Yeah, and you know, look, man, people probably be saying all kinds of stuff to Gronk that he just laughs off until that moment where Gronk is, Gronk smash, Gronk must destroy. I don't want to be anywhere around angry Rob Gronkowski. I don't want to be anywhere near that. I mean, I imagine that he's one of those that it's all fun and games until it's not. And when the fun and games stop, it is neither fun nor is it games. All right, we talked about the college football playoff just a second ago. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. It's out to Matt from Fort Wayne. Matt, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, how's it going, Bo?
Doing all right.
Hey, so I think you hit the nail right on the head as far as they're talking about college football being a regional sport and stuff. And been hearing a lot about college or about the conference champions and people kind of losing their mind over this. But if we take a look at the old system, the BCS, I mean, how many times do we have 3 and 4 loss teams that got the automatic bid, and then people losing their minds about people getting left out for only having 1 or 2 losses? I just thought, you know, there is not going to be a perfect answer to this.
No,
I'll let you speak on it.
Well, I tell you, man, I appreciate the call. No, the problem you got with college football in this regard is there's just not enough ways for enough teams to play against each other to where you really have like a big enough sample of information that allows for the comparisons that you use in these things. There's just not enough. There's no way to do it. The only way to do it is like greatly expand the number of games that people play. But I am not here for asking those boys to do anything more for free than they already do. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up next, did Gronk get off light with that suspension? We'll ask Ryan Clark on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest, Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark. Ryan, Gronk got 1 game suspension for that hit on Tre'Davious White. What did you think about the suspension?
Well, I just hope it holds. I hope it's because I know he's going to appeal. I hope he is suspended for a game. I hope he misses that game. I think we have to show that there's no place in our league for that. And though it wasn't the punches thrown and some of the other things we've seen, whether it be from Crabtree to Lee, A.J. Green, I think it was the worst play we've had this season. You got a guy laying on the ground, plays clearly over you. You stutter your feet like you're trying to go from the free throw line, jump on the back of his head in the most vulnerable position that a guy can possibly be, the most defenseless position a guy can possibly be on the football field, and you intentionally go to inflict pain on him. I think he should be suspended. I would actually think that it should have been more. Maybe him not having any past transgressions of this nature played into it, but he should definitely miss a game.
Are you surprised that some people weren't a bit more upset about this one? Because you're right about the fact that the player was in as vulnerable position as you could imagine someone being in.
I'm not surprised. Here's why. I'm sitting in the room watching it here, and there are people laughing. Right, and we've always given Gronk this pass because he's been genuinely him. He's a happy-go-lucky, kind of fun-loving, fraternity boy type personality, and we've laughed a lot of things off. And I think in this, you have to look at it and take away all the rest of those things and look at it for just this incident, not an incident of his history or anything like that or how you perceive him as a person. Just watch the intent of what he does and the way he goes about doing it. And it shows you how egregious and how dangerous of an action this was.
All right, we're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, switching gears, one of your old teams, the New York Giants. Is there any point in switching to Eli Manning now?
No, I don't think so. And unless Eli Manning is still in your future from John Mara's point of view. When you move on from Eli last week, you're supposed to be moving on from Eli with the plan. And that plan, to me, would be that he's not a part of your future. So unless that has changed within the last week, then I think you start Davis Webb and try to see who he is and what he can be for your franchise. It's really strange what's going on in New York, and it just shows you that right now how dysfunctional this franchise we've looked at as one of the more stable franchises in the NFL really is today at this point.
Did you think that they would fire McAdoo during the season?
I think it got to the point where they didn't have a choice. And if you listen to some of the Mara statements, they came out early and were very proactive in saying they'd evaluate him after the season. And then they kind of started to move toward, things are fluid. Things are being evaluated now. And then you get this. It was such a he said he used spiraling out of control. And it wasn't even about the football, Bo. It was just about the organization. It was about the locker room. It was about the news coming out of New York every week. On top of being a very bad football team, was being a football team with no structure, a football team with no direction. And when things like that start to happen, heads have to roll. And I think John Mara understood that if you walked Ben McAdoo out as the head coach of this team with Eli Manning sitting on the side for the next 3 to 4 games that are going to be at home, you knew it was going to be a bad situation. So he had to show in some type of way some goodwill toward the fans and some type of proactivity in changing the nature of this locker room and the nature of this team.
Now, within all of this, did Geno Smith have any chance to succeed at all going out there this weekend?
I don't think he did. I just don't know if there was something Geno Smith could do to make people feel all right with him. I will say this, in watching the game, obviously he was under pressure. He had the 2 strip fumbles. I thought he threw the ball well. I thought he showed well. I thought he moved around in the pocket well. He showed some of the things that made him a second-round pick when he came out and why he was previously a starter. So if you're Geno Smith, I think you feel good that you actually got to go out there and show that you aren't just a total wash, but there's no way for him to get any positive or succeed in this situation moving forward.
All right, we're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Switching gears, are the Seahawks just going to ride Russell Wilson all the way and ask him to do literally everything on offense?
Hey, man, it's getting to the point, it looks like they don't even call plays. It looks like they say, hey, man, you do whatever you do with the initial route. Russ going to drop back, then he going to run, and we'll figure out a way to get you the ball. I think the play he makes late in the game, and, they kind of show that it's a forward pass, but the play he makes late in the game, scrambles up into the pocket, breaks a tackle, is going to get tackled before the first down, pitches the ball, gets the first down, takes the hit. That's just really Russell Wilson's season in one play. He's been everything and more for this team, and he's a guy, I think even more so over Carson Wentz, when you start really dissecting the numbers that we should be looking at as an MVP candidate along with Tom Brady.
All right, we're talking to Brian Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, how is Seattle still even being competitive given that half of that secondary is gone, the front seven has been banged up, and Russell Wilson is just strapping them on his back?
Well, because Bobby Wagner is an absolute monster in the middle. Shaq Griffin has been a revelation as a third-round pick from UCF. You bring back Byron Maxwell. He's actually playing good football again. And like you said, Russell Wilson is doing it all. I mean, they're an 8-4 team that's one game out from being tied for first in their division after already having a win over the Los Angeles Rams. And I think it's just that pedigree. It's that confidence that you have when you've kind of been there and done that. And it's finding enough plays to win some of these really close games that they have. And, I mean, even you look when Atlanta came in there a couple of weeks ago and put up points, they were right there, a play away from being able to win that one. And so this is the team that you can't take lightly.
We're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Are we being unfair to Alex Smith? He had 360-something yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and he's answering for his job after that game, too.
Now, that ain't Alex's fault now. That is not Alex's fault. When you got DBs running into each other, guys running wide open, giving the New York Jets 6 plays to score late in the game, an extra shot at a 2-point conversion, those things aren't Alex Smith's fault. And obviously he's going to take the brunt of it, and he's going to take a lot of the blame. But Travis Kelce said it yesterday. Don't blame this on Alex Smith. He's not the reason we're losing, and he definitely wasn't yesterday.
So who do you think is going to come out of that division where the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Chiefs are now at 6-6?
I will say this. The team you do not want to play is the Los Angeles Chargers. That's the team you don't want to see. They still have to go to KC, and I think that game goes a very long way in saying which team comes out of the AFC West. You look at the Oakland Raiders, they got 3 or 4 on the road. So I think it's going to be the winner of the Los Angeles Chargers-Kansas City matchup in Kansas City, which is a hard place to play.
All right, last question for Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Have you ever wanted to throw a flag into the crowd like Marcus Peters did?
I have, but I never had the heart to do it, and I for sure didn't have the heart to come back out in them ankle socks.
Dude, Marcus Peters is like, I mean, he's Marshawn Lynch. He's Marshawn Lynch light now, right? I'm just going to do what I do, and I don't do interviews, so nobody really asks any questions.
Man, he's all the way Oaktown, bro. All the way. The last interview he gave, he told y'all, man, I was hella weak. You feel me? But I made that play, and then my game wasn't hella weak. I was just weak, you feel me? And that's how he rocked, bro.
And let us not forget that Marshawn Lynch got out of interviews yesterday because he had to give a urine sample, and he told the reporters that they wanted his ding-dong sauce.
His ding-dong sauce. All right, bro.
All right, Ryan Clark, you take it easy, man. All right, now ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest joined us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Ryan Clark of ESPN for joining us last segment. Chris Canty of ESPN will join us next segment, talk about what's going on with the Giants. Chris Canty will join us at 6 o'clock Eastern. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. We talked a little earlier about that Gronk suspension. I'm starting to think maybe it was a little bit short. Let's hit the phones and talk to T from Atlanta. T, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bo, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, man.
Hey, I wanted to throw this out there. Actually, 2 points if you have time. But on the Gronk suspension, I wonder if Goodell and the NFL office is being lenient on this because of that contract situation they have and the support that they'll need from Kraft.
That, I think, is a fair point to make. And, T, I appreciate the call. I never know what's going on behind the scenes on any of this stuff at this point. And you do have to remember at every turn that the homie Raj is out here trying to fight for his job. That's coloring the thing with the Players Coalition. And it would stand to reason that this would color the situation with the suspension. Shannon, you seem skeptical.
I get his point, and I'm all here for the conspiracy theories. But I think if that was the case, I'd imagine that Goodell would have fought harder for lessening Ezekiel Elliott's suspension, no?
Well, except he was already in on that. He couldn't get out of that one. Like, one thing about the league, once they're in on a punishment, they're in on the punishment. Once he made that decision, but Shane, you got to admit, but since he laid down that punishment initially, the world has changed around Raj. So, no, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I can't say that's the case, but it wouldn't shock me. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. All right, guys, so coming into this year, I think that we thought across the board that the two best divisions in the NFL were going to be the NFC South and the AFC West. Now, the NFC South, in spite of Tampa Bay being pretty disappointing, the NFC South has kind of turned out to be what we thought it would be. The Saints and Panthers have been very good. The Falcons are right up there. Like, that one's proved to be one worth talking about. The AFC West, however, we got three teams at 6-6 right now, and I don't think any of us think that either is good. And then there's the Broncos, who we thought would be better, and they stank up to be damned. Good gracious, they stink. Chiefs out here with a quarterback controversy. The Chargers, the surprising 6-6 after being 0-4. And then the Raiders, where I'm kind of feeling bad for Derek Carr, because didn't Derek Carr have one of those, it was a broken back or something earlier this year, where they said he might be out for 6 weeks and he was out for 1? Because he looks awful. Like, there's no way around the fact that Carr looks awful. But I don't know how much of that you can blame on Carr and how much of that is, okay, Carr is beat up and their backup is E.J. Manuel, and it can't be that, right? It cannot be that. So maybe that's what it is, but that division on a whole has been bad, and now the Broncos out here getting the score run up on them by Adam Gase, who apparently has beef. And none of us knew that Adam Gase had beef. Apparently, Adam Gase does not feel like John Elway did enough to, like, give him a shout out when it was time for him to get a coaching job in 2015. And so he decided to kick an onside kick to run it when they were up by 30 points, and he did the onside kick. And I get where Adam Gase is coming from on that. My problem with it, though, is, Adam Gase, if you're going to do this, you need to be out there on the kick team, because them boys are going to be the ones that got to fight. Shannon, you think he would have done that if Talib had not been suspended?
You absolutely had to weigh that decision based upon Talib not playing, because had Talib been playing, it would have been a whole nother situation.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like Talib would have settled for that. Like, I don't get the vibe that Talib would have been, like, all down and all good for what them circumstances and situations were. I just don't get that feeling. But that's the thing. When the coach wants to run up the score in the name of his own beef, he's never going to be the one that's got to fight. It's kind of hard to ignore that.
It's funny, you had me thinking about this, especially in regards to AFC West and just the AFC overall. Just looking at some of the standings right now, everything, for the exception of New England and maybe Pittsburgh, everything that we assumed was going to happen in the AFC has been the total opposite. Like, you alluded to it. We thought the Broncos were going to be good. They're at 3-9.
Yes.
Raiders at 6-6. Chargers, we didn't know what to think. Chiefs, we thought would have been okay at 6-6. Titans and Jaguars are at 8-4. Let me repeat that. The Titans and the Jaguars are at 8-4.
But what's funny about that is I think that we saw it as being possible for the Titans to be 8-4, but a lot of that was based on the idea that the Jaguars would not be good, right? Like that the Titans would be 8-4 and that whole division would be awful, although much of it has been. But that whole division would be awful, and they would go there. Jacksonville at 8-4 is shocking. Like, there's no way around that. Jacksonville at 8-4 is as shocking as anything in the league because Blake Bortles still play for them. And, by the way, your friendly reminder that the Patriots have the highest point differential in the AFC at 125. The Jaguars are right behind them at 121. Like the Titans 8-4 is, I mean, they have a negative point differential. Their 8-4 is kind of phony. Shannon, the Jaguars is solid as a rock. Solid as a rock. Who saw that coming?
Like every week I go into it was like, okay, when is it going to end for Jack's Flag? When are they going to come back down to earth? And they just keep piling up wins. And here we are, 8 wins later.
And then again, the Chargers are up here with the highest point differential in the AFC West. The Ravens shockingly have a 73-point differential over their opponents, which is wild considering you could make an argument that outside of like Deshaun Kaiser, that they're getting the worst quarterback play in the conference in Baltimore. Because Joe Flacco stank up to be damned. Oh, my bad. I forgot about the Broncos. There's them.
In defense of Joe Flacco, he was eating W's this weekend, so that was good. I don't know if you saw that in the postgame presser.
I did see him eat the W. That's not a move I would mimic myself. I thought that we had all learned that that doesn't come across the way that maybe he had wanted that to come across. Maybe I just saw the world a little bit differently. I don't know. But, yeah, the AFC West is, like, somebody's going to come out of this. Like, I'm looking at this in the AFC, and I guess I feel good about the Jaguars, but I don't really feel good about, like, great about any team. And that I do feel good about the Jaguars, in spite. I'm setting myself up for that. It's kind of like that time I picked the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl, knowing damn well that Andy Dalton played for that. That was embarrassing. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a former Giant about who he wants to take over the team. We'll talk to Chris Canty on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.